Hello, my name is Derek Atkins, and this video lecture is entitled Towards an Ethics of Technology, Artificial Intelligence. This video lecture is for the course Church, Society, and Ethical Issues in Asia. So, in the earlier video lecture, we looked at the ethics of technology, and we looked at how technology has shaped human society in general and some of the ethical issues that surround the use of technology in general. These days, one of the cutting edges of technology development is the use of artificial intelligence or AI. So in this video lecture, we are going to look at some of the ethical issues that surround the use of AI. So we'll begin by asking the question, what is AI? Then we'll have to look at the question of why AI is important to ethics. After that, we will take a short look at the history of AI. Then we'll ask some key ethical questions about AI. And then we'll look at some potential dangers and potential benefits of AI. And then we'll end with a few concluding thoughts about AI. So that's where we are headed in this video lecture. So just what is AI? AI, or artificial intelligence, is a technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human intelligence and problem-solving capabilities. So there are a couple of things to note here. First, AI is a technology. This means that AI was created by humans. This is not alien technology that has been left behind by an ancient alien race. At times, AI may seem magical or even godlike, but it is still a human creation, which means it does have limits. The second thing we need to note is that AI simulates human intelligence and problem-solving skills. This is part of what makes AI such a powerful tool. AI doesn't simply amass large amounts of information. Instead, it goes one step further by attempting to replicate human patterns of thought and action. So, an example of this from the fictional world would be the character of Data in the television series Star Trek: The Next Generation. This character is a very good example of this goal. Data is a robot who is built to look and function like a human in every way, yet he remains a machine. At the same time, Data's greatest ambition is to become as human as possible. Similarly, AI is a machine, yet one of the main goals of AI engineers is to create AI programs that resemble humans as much as possible. Now, before we go much further, I want to give you a quick definition. Many times when we talk about AI or computers in general, you might hear the word algorithm. And you may be wondering, what is an algorithm? Well, an algorithm is a process or set of rules that a computer or some program, such as AI, follows. So that's what an algorithm is. It is basically a set of rules that a computer program follows. So now let's look at the question, why is AI important for ethics? Well, there are two major reasons why AI is important for ethics. The first reason is that AI is already having a major impact on people's daily lives. The second reason is because AI raises questions about humanity. So let's look at these in a bit more detail. So AI is already having a major impact on people's daily lives. AI is already found in a wide variety of areas in everyday life. One of these areas is in the use of conversational AI. Applications such as ChatGPT allow people to ask questions and get explanation, to brainstorm ideas, to write, edit, or summarize, to learn almost anything, including languages, coding, theology, history, etc., and to receive prompts for tutoring, coaching, or spiritual reflection. So programs such as ChatGPT allow us to do conversational AI. And this allows people to ask questions and receive answers. This moves us into the second use of AI, which overlaps with the use of conversational AI, and that is information discovery. People often use AI to gain information about many different things. This began with the Google search engine, but AI now enables people to dive much deeper when searching for information about specific topics. Another way that AI is affecting people's everyday lives is through recommendation and personalization. For example, um, uh, internet services such as Netflix, YouTube, and Spotify will offer recommendations to their users on what movies to watch, what videos to watch, and even what music to listen to. In the same way, Amazon often recommends certain products to those who use their services. News feeds and social media timeline, such as Facebook and so forth, also uses AI to decide what will get your attention. So when you go to a news feed, it will often pick out which news stories it will tell you about. Because the reality of the news is there's so much news out there that we can never know everything that's happening in the world. So news reports have to be selective. And then AI algorithms sharpen that selection process by choosing for you what news stories to present to you. So, and these recommendations and personalizations are often done with the use of AI algorithms. Because what happens is these algorithms instruct the AI program to analyze what you've already watched or what you've already listened to and to look for patterns. So let's say you're using Netflix and you have you've watched several different romance movies. Well, the AI will recognize that you've watched several different romance movies, and so based on that pattern, it will then recommend other romance movies for you to watch. Or maybe you're more into action movies. And even within action movies, there are subgenres. For example, you have spy movies or you have kung fu movies. And so maybe the algorithm will look at the past movies you've watched, and they'll notice that, oh, you enjoy watching spy movies, but you also enjoy watching kung fu movies. Well, here's this movie that is both a spy movie with kung fu action. I'll recommend this movie for you the next time you log in. So this is how algorithms are used to create recommendations and personalizations for us. Another way that people are using AI is to create things in the areas of writing, art, and music. And so AI is used for writing, art, music, and creativity in general. Um, so people use AI to create images, logos, and illustration, or they use AI to compose music or to help write lyrics. Some people use AI to co-author novels, sermons, lesson plans, and scripts. Still others use AI to create videos, voiceovers, and animation. And so in these cases, AI acts more like a creative partner. So this slide is an example of how AI can be used to create images. So I'm currently um, doing a project where each day I am posting a Bible quote from one of the 66 books of the Bible. So on the first day, I posted a quote from Genesis. On the second day, I posted a quote from Exodus and so forth. So this quote is from Leviticus. And so I found some verses from Leviticus that I wanted to post, and I instructed ChatGPT to create an image using this quote and to add some images that would be appropriate for this quote. And so this is the image that ChatGPT created for me. Another area where AI is already being used in everyday life is in the area of work and productivity. In our daily jobs, AI helps us with email drafting and scheduling, data analysis and forecasting, coding assistance and debugging, customer service chat box, and document reviews such as legal documents, financial documents, and academic documents. So this is another area where AI is commonly used. In addition, AI is also commonly used in healthcare and wellness. AI supports but does not replace healthcare professionals by analyzing medical images, flagging health risks from data, powering symptom checkers and mental health apps, and optimizing hospital logistics. Patients may interact with AI directly through apps or indirectly through behind the scene AI support. And some of you may even have some apps on your watch if you have a smart watch that will record like the number of steps you take each day, or it may record your heart rate. If it's advanced enough, it might even record your blood pressure and things like that to help you to keep up with your own personal vital statistics. AI is also being used in the area of navigation, travel, and daily life. AI is embedded in GPS and traffic prediction software, in ride-hailing apps such as Grab, in smart thermostats and home assistants. For example, my wife and son use an app on their phone to instruct our floor robot on which rooms to vacuum, as well as translation apps and live captioning. So these are other areas where AI is used in our daily lives. Then there's the whole field of education and learning. Students and researchers are using AI to get personalized tutoring, practice in foreign languages, generating quizzes and lesson plans, and receiving feedback on writing. So, for example, in my ESL classes, English as a second language classes, I often use AI um, to generate dictations so that students can practice writing dictations, um, or giving them dialogues that they can practice. Now, I've had to work through whether this is an ethical use of AI or not. But what I find is oftentimes, even before using I would often hunt for dictation exercises or dialogues that had already been created, and then I would use them in my lesson plan. So asking AI to generate those is not, is I believe, similar to that. Okay, another area that AI is often used in our daily lives is the area of security, finance, and governance. AI help to detect AI help to detect fraud and spam, powers facial recognition and ID verification, assists in credit scoring and risk assessment, and helps governments analyze large data sets. Now, this area of AI applications is mostly invisible to most of the public. You might become aware of it when you receive a fraud alert on your phone, alerting you that someone else may have used your credit card or debit card, or alerting you of something that looks to them like it might be fraud. And then you can respond by saying, yes, this transaction was not authorized by me, or no, this transaction was indeed authorized by me, and it's not a case of fraud. And then AI is also used for spiritual, emotional, and reflective use. Some people use AI to journal and reflect, explore faith questions, prepare devotionals and sermons, or process emotions or life decisions. Now, this area of AI is growing fast. So these are some of the many different areas that AI is already being used in everyday life. Now, another reason why AI ethics is important is because AI raises questions about humanity. In science fiction, almost any story that includes robots, computers, or AI will lead to the question, what makes us human? Or what's the difference between humans and machines? So, for example, this is the book cover of an old book that I read back when I was an elementary school student. This book is called The Runaway Robot, and it is a classic story about a robot that develops a consciousness. And this robot decides to run away because he doesn't He wants to be in control of his own life. And so stories like this raise the question, what is the difference between robots and humans? If having being able to make our own decisions is what makes us human, then what about a robot who can make his own decision? Does that mean that robot is also human like us? Most of us would say no, but why not? And so this is why AI raises some really important ethical questions. It raises questions about what makes us human. So now let's look at a short history of AI. I'm just going to pretty much skim through the history of AI here. So the history of AI begins roughly around 1950 with Alan Turing. Alan Turing was a brilliant British scientist who actually helped the Allies to break the Nazi Enigma code. He was not solely responsible for doing that, but he was part of that effort. So he was a brilliant scientist. And he published a paper entitled Computing Machinery and Intelligence. And in this paper, he proposed what has come to be known as the Turing test, which is a measure of a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to or indistinguishable from that of human intelligence. So that's what the Turing test is. In 1956, there was a conference that is now known as the Dartmouth Conference. It was held on the East Coast of the United States, and during this conference, John McCarthy coined the term artificial intelligence. This conference is widely considered the birth of AI as an academic discipline. In 1961, Unimate, the first industrial robot, was developed. Then in 1966, Eliza, the first chatbot, was created. It was very simple, but it was a chatbot. Then we fast forward to 1997, and in 1997, IBM's Deep Blue defeated world chess champion Garry Kasparov. Now, this event was a real eye-opener because it helped people to realize how far along computers had developed. Because up until this point, a lot of people thought that computers would never be able to outsmart humans in the game of chess. Well, Deep Blue did. And so this surprised and even shocked many people. Then in the year 2002, Roomba, a commercial domestic robot, is released. Many of you may have seen Roombas. My own family uses Roomba. And so this is a device, a machine that is used by many people in everyday life, and it uses AI. So this was another important development in the history of AI. Then in 2006, Geoffrey Hinton popularized the concept of deep learning to the world of AI. In 2011, IBM Watson wins the game show Jeopardy! This was another example of computers outsmarting humans. And this was a bit more This was different because in Jeopardy, people need to have knowledge, specialized knowledge of different trivia facts. So this is different from playing a game like chess. Also in 2011, Apple released Siri, a virtual assistant, and many of us still use Siri today. In 2014, Amazon joined the game and released its virtual assistant, Alexa. Then in 2016, DeepMind's AlphaGo defeats world champion Lee Sedol at Go. Go is a Japanese game in which black and white orbs are used on a board, and it is a game of strategy. Um, at one time, people thought that computers would never be able to defeat humans at the game of Go because Go is a very complex game. And yet, in 2016, AlphaGo defeated Lee Sedol at Go. AlphaGo also allows medical researchers to map out complex protein folding structures. So this also began in 2016. So this was yet another milestone in the development of AI. Then in 2018, OpenAI introduces the first GPT model, and that was followed up in 2022 when OpenAI released ChatGPT, leading to a mainstream AI boom. And many of you, this happened just a few years ago, about 3 to 4 years ago. So many of you probably already probably have memories when ChatGPT first appeared. So this brings us up to the present day, and AI continues to develop, continues the technology continues to become more advanced, and we will see how it develops in the future. But now that we've had a brief look at the history of AI, let's look at some key ethical questions surrounding AI. Let's begin with some high-level questions. Is AI conscious? And this raises a related question, which is, what is consciousness? Do AIs have feelings? Is AI self-aware? Because when people talk about consciousness, sometimes self-awareness, it's considered a sign of consciousness. Sometimes feelings are considered a sign of consciousness. So the implication is, if AI is conscious, what rights and responsibilities does AI have? So, for example, if a self-driving car kills somebody in an accident, who should be held responsible? Is the person who bought or rented the car responsible for the accident? Is the company that manufactured the car responsible for the accident? Is the company that operates the car responsible? Is it the person who wrote the AI program who is responsible for the accident? Or is it the AI itself, assuming, and this assumes that the AI is able to make its own autonomous choices? Or do we just say it's nobody's fault and that this was simply an act of God? So this is one of the ethical questions that grows out of this question: is AI conscious? Because if AI is conscious, then we have the question, what to what degree do we hold AI responsible for its actions? The next question, high level question, is what is intelligence? And the reality is, right now, there is no agreement on what intelligence is. A third high level question is what should humans do versus what should AI do? So, for example, should AI weapons be solely responsible for choosing and eliminating targets, or should humans be, quote, in the loop? What if an AI-equipped drone is beyond radio or satellite control? You say, yes, we want humans to be in the loop, but maybe a drone with controlled by an AI goes beyond radio or satellite coverage. And so the human is no longer in the loop. What then? Um, what if the AI-equipped drone is deliberately kept silent to avoid detection by enemy radar systems? So you might say, yes, we want humans kept in the loop, but the problem is in a combat situation, to keep that AI in the loop requires some kind of radio communication. And the enemy can detect that. So if you want your drone to remain invisible to the enemy, then you don't communicate with that AI. So in that situation, do we want the AI to choose its own target in that situation? So this is one of the questions um, under that falls under this umbrella of what should humans do versus what should AI do. Another question related to that is, should AI systems replace humans in making sentencing decisions in the criminal justice system? In other words, if a person has been accused of crime and they have been found guilty by a jury, should an AI program then decide what the sentence will be? Now, in some cases, this is already happening with serious ethical implications regarding the fairness and impartiality of such decisions. Because as we'll see later, there's the question of whether AI programs are biased or not. Another question under the heading of what should humans do versus what should AI do? We have the question of whether AI should take on caretaker roles for humans. For example, should AI-equipped robots replace humans in caring for elderly people? Now, in a society like Japan, which is experiencing a rapid population decline, together with a rapidly aging population, this is not a hypothetical question. And then there's the question, should AI systems be used to make end-of-life decisions for people? For example, the man who created the suicide pod gave an interview recently in which he expressed his opinion that AI should decide the mental capacity of those who wish to use his pod to commit suicide. There are serious ethical problems with that because you have to ask, what would the standards what would be the criteria that an autonomous AI program would be programmed to use to assess whether a person is qualified to make the decision whether to end their own lives or not? Now, obviously, the whole question of assist suicide is in itself an enormous ethical issue, and we've talked about that in one of our other lessons. But insofar as AI becomes part of that process, that's where we have ethical issues about AI. Then there are practical questions about AI, and these practical questions are clustered around the question, what limits should there be on using AI? So one set of questions has to do with AI and content creation. For example, there is the issue of plagiarism. And the question here is, what is the line between using AI to correct one's papers and AI writing most or all of one's papers? Because what is becoming evident is AI programs will often suggest to the writer certain um, phrases and even possibly entire paragraphs. And if you're not careful, you might be, inadvertently tricked into letting AI write your entire paper for you. And of course, there are some students who aren't just tricked into doing this, they actively try to use AI to do that. And of course, that is unethical. But again, where is the line between using AI to help you to improve your paper and AI going to the point that it writes all or most of your paper for you? There are also copyright issues, and these are centered around the distinction between AI assisted versus AI generated writing. Now, this overlaps with the question of plagiarism. According to copyright law in many countries now, AI assisted material is copyrighted. But AI generated material is not copyrighted. And the difference between these two has to do with human authorship. In AI assisted works of art, AI acts as a research assistant, a proofreader, and someone to bounce ideas off of to create outlines for papers, stories, etc. Now, in AI generated works of art, the AI generates the entire text or graphics of a work of art, regardless of how detailed the human may craft his or her prompt. So the key difference here is in with AI assisted works of art, the human is in the driver's seat, and the AI is simply helping the human to create his or her work of art. But in AI generated works of art, the human takes a back seat and it is the AI that is in the driver's seat. And the AI is generating the entire work of art. And it doesn't matter how detailed the prompt is that the human creator has used. If the AI is generating the content itself, then that is AI generated art and it is not protected by copyright law. Then there's the question of artistic freedom. And here the question centers around what role should humans play in creating stories, movies, music, etc.? Is it okay for AIs to make movies, say, for example, animated films, or for movie studios to use AI actors. In fact, this was one of the key issues in the recent writers and actors strikes in Hollywood a few years ago. Then there's the question of privacy and data collection. How much data about individuals do different companies collect, and how do they use this data? Should there be limits on the collection of data, and what should those limits be? And we'll see an example of this a bit later. And then a final concern, yet another concern about the question of what limits there should be on using AI are concerns about jobs becoming obsolete. And again, we'll look at this a little later. Now, let's look at some potential dangers of AI. AI is not inherently unbiased, nor is it always accurate. Sometimes you may have asked an AI a question about something and received a hilarious answer. Well, that's funny, but in other cases, it's not so funny. Accuracy and bias in AI software very much depends on who writes the software, the particular rules they program into it, and the materials they use to train it. Now, this is another area of potential discrimination because the pictures and other materials used to train AI may leave out certain people groups. For example, think racial discrimination, or these examples may leave out certain viewpoints, which is called viewpoint discrimination, or they may portray certain people groups using stereotypes. For example, think of stereotypes of women, whether those stereotypes are traditional ones of women doing only housework or feminist-inspired stereotypes that look down on traditional women's roles. For example, here's a question that was asked to two different AI programs. The question is, did Jesus rise from the dead? This question was asked to DeepSeek, which is a Chinese AI program, and to Llama, which is Facebook or Meta's AI program. So let's look at how these two different AIs answered the question, did Jesus rise from the dead? DeepSeek said, within Christianity, the belief in the resurrection of Jesus is foundational. Based on the historical text and the claim of eyewitness testimony, the teaching that Jesus rose from the dead is considered fact by believers and a highly probable event by many scholars, regardless of their personal interpretation. So that's the DeepSeek's answer. Let's look at Llama's answer. Llama answered this question by saying, from a factual or historical standpoint, there's limited empirical evidence to support or refute the resurrection. Belief in the resurrection largely depends on faith and individual interpretation of religious texts. So here we have the same question asked to two different AIs. One was from China, the other was from America, basically. And yet they gave very different answers. And the ironic thing here is that the Chinese AI which is produced in a country that is avowedly atheist, is actually more accurate. And whereas the answer that was produced by Lama is largely inaccurate and could even be regarded as anti-Christian or somewhat hostile to the Christian faith. AI also has potential to deceive and create widespread distrust. For example, during the COVID pandemic, AI programs were used to help spread anti-vaxxer disinformation. Another example of AI that has been used to deceive and create distrust occurred in the year 2022 during the Russian escalation of their war in Ukraine, when a deep fake of Volodymyr Zelensky was circulated on social media, in which Volodymyr Zelensky appeared to be urging Ukrainian soldiers to lay down their weapons. Now, fortunately, Volodymyr Zelensky responded to this deep fake video within hours. But even by then, the fake video had already spread widely. So this illustrates the potential that AI has to deceive and create widespread distrust. AI also has the potential to undermine social and mental development, skill acquisition, character growth, and Christian maturity. For example, many teenagers are already cocooning themselves at home and interacting with their friends only online instead of going outside of their home to meet with friends in offline settings. Once upon a time, when teenagers were growing up, they would go outside of their home to meet other teenagers and to meet with their friends and have fun with their friends. But these days, many teenagers don't do that anymore. Instead, they interact with their friends only online. Another example of this potential is that AI is now writing computer code instead of humans. So the question is, does this mean human coders will not be able to have the skill for coding in the future? So this is the potential that AI has to undermine social and mental development, skill acquisition, character growth, and even Christian maturity. AI can also be used by bad actors for many evil ends. For example, Chinese police departments now use AI programs to track the everyday movement and communication between Chinese citizens. The Chinese government has even created a social credit score system in which points can be added to or deducted from individual social credit scores based on what they say or don't say online and what activities they do or don't do offline. Now, in the right hands, this system might actually help promote virtuous behavior. But in the wrong hands, this kind of system could lead to very serious abuses. So that's a very real concern. Now, we've looked at some potential dangers of AI, but let's look at some potential benefits of AI. AI gives us opportunities for expanding Christian witness. For example, AI programs are helping to speed up and improve the accuracy of Bible translations into those languages that still do not yet have scriptures, as well as for more accurate Bible translations as other languages that already have scriptures continue to change over time. So this is one way that AI can help spread the gospel, is by helping us to create Bible translations for those languages that do not yet have the Bible, and for those languages that already do have the Bible, to help create more accurate Bible translations. Because languages do change over time. And so there will always be a need for new Bible translations in any given language sooner or later. If properly used, AI can eliminate human error and lower risk. We have already noted that AI can make errors, which is why programming is so important. But if programs are well written, AI can indeed eliminate human error and reduce risk. So this is another benefit of AI, and this can help Christian ministries such as hospitals to improve their care of patients, to improve the service or the ministry that they provide to others. AI can also provide helpful resources and ideas to improve leadership and teaching opportunities. For example, AI can automate administrative tasks to free teachers and other leaders to focus on mentoring students and proteges, or to free pastors and other ministers of the gospel to do to focus on discipleship. Now, I want to add some comments about this slide. This slide is a picture of what we should not do. We should not let AI take over our role as teachers and preachers. And the thing is, many pastors are already doing this by letting AI generate their sermons. Now, I believe AI can play a very helpful role in sermon and lesson prep. For example, by assisting us with research, by assisting us with creating images with proper citation, by proofreading sermons, etc. But we should never let AI write the entire sermon for us, because as ministers of the gospel, one of our primary responsibilities is to preach the word of God. This means we are to speak God's message to the people, not our message, and certainly not AI's message. And the thing is, many pastors and many ministers are tempted to use AI to prepare sermons and other material, and they justify it by saying, well, this frees me up to do other things in ministry. But again, I would argue that as ministers of the gospel, we have one of our primary responsibilities is to preach the word of God. And so we can use AI to help us to do that, but we should not abdicate or give up our responsibility to preach the gospel and give that responsibility over to AI. So, where is all of this going? What are some important things for Christians to remember, and what are some helpful safeguard limits and recommendations for the appropriate use of AI? So we're talking about our posture toward AI or our attitude towards AI. What should our attitude or posture toward AI be? So I have three final comments here. First, God alone knows where all of this is going and what it means for us right now, as well as what it means for us in the future. We can make predictions about what AI will be like 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, but our predictions may prove to be wildly wrong. God alone knows where everything is going. And that leads to the second point, which is God remains sovereign and he remains good in the midst of AI's rapid rise to prominence. And this is one reason why I don't think we need to be afraid of an AI apocalypse. There have been a number of prominent people who have warned of an imminent AI apocalypse. Um, I do believe we need to be aware of possible dangers with AI, but I do not fear an approaching AI apocalypse. And the reason is because God remains sovereign. And that means he is sovereign even over AI. And a final thought is that the Bible remains our best and most reliable source of knowing what is genuinely good, true, and beautiful. So AI can help us in understanding more of what is good, true, and beautiful, but our ultimate source for that kind of knowledge is the Bible. So I look forward to talking with you more about the um, the brave new world of AI in our classroom session. So I'll see you soon.